Okay, we're going to start Tesvav Amud Beis. It's not the new parak yet. We're maybe 20 lines up from that. Probably 10 lines down from the top. By the word Gufa. Gufa is returning to something that was said earlier by an Amira. That's usually how Gufa works. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And it's about learning, we should have the basic English immediately. Okay, so it goes like this. Gufa was taught before that Matzabat Tinak Mushlach, if we find a child that's abandoned, Rashi added before that there's another concept called an asufi. Asufi would be that maybe it was abandoned because of other issues, maybe the mamzer or other things. Now, when would that happen? That would be if they left him for dead. But here, it's obvious that they were trying to take care of him because he was dressed properly, had everything. It was just they wanted him to survive, not abandoned. We just don't know his lineage. So if they find this child that's abandoned, so if the majority of the area is non-Jewish, then we'll assume he's a non-Jew. Imrov Yisrael, if the majority is Jewish, then he's Yisrael. Okay. What about mechza mechza? Half and half. We say Yisrael is Jewish also. Now the problem is that if half and half is already Jewish, so then majority is of course Jewish. Why is it divided into two cases? He's Jewish. Once it's half and half, then it's Jewish. Amar Rav, Leishanu alach yesei. Rav says, what we're referring to here, we're talking about support. To give him support to help him survive. But to help him get married, who he's going to marry, that's like, we don't consider him Jewish just because of this majority. We said before, for Yuchsin, we need two majorities, remember? Shmuel says we're actually referring to taking off rubble off him if something collapsed on Shabbos, which would be a prohibition, but if he's Jewish, then we do that. Shmuel Hachi. Does Shmuel say that you need a majority to help him? You don't need a majority. Even if it's majority not Jewish, we should have to take off the rubble to help him survive. What we have to say is the other way, that even if the majority is not Jewish, we consider him not Jewish, except when it comes to helping him survive, then we consider him that he was probably Jewish, even though the majority goes against that. You have to help him get out of the rubble. On Shabbos, that is. What do you mean to tell me that if the majority isn't Jewish? So he's not considered Jewish. What's that for? What's the halacha that's relevant? You're allowed to feed him non-kosher food, biyadayim. If he'd be Jewish, you wouldn't be allowed to do that. So here, eat treif. Yeah, if he's not Jewish, then you can feed him treif. Imrov Yisrael, if majority is Jewish, he's considered Jewish. So my hilchah, what's that relevant for? To return a lost object to him. That means by a Jewish person, that you have an obligation to return the item that was found. Mechza Yisrael. What about 50-50? We said that that's also considered Jewish. What is that relevant for? If there were damages here. Now, the rule with damages goes like this, that if a Jewish ox, not a Jewish ox, a Jewish-owned ox damages a non-Jewish owned ox, the Jew is exempt from paying. If a Jewish-owned ox damages another Jewish-owned ox, then it depends. He either pays 50%, or full payment, depending on if it was a short tam or muad, how if it's tame or if it happened 3 times already. If a non-Jewish owned ox damages a Jewish-owned ox, then it's always full payment. Yeah. You have the Gemara Baba Kama where these people came to study Torah, and there was one halacha that they didn't want to teach them. It was this halacha. And they said everything, somehow everything is true, but this halacha was problematic. Okay. So now we're talking about someone we don't know what his status is, but there's a majority that there's a 50-50 if he's Jewish, 50% population. So, Hechidami, what's our case that you told us that he's considered Jewish? Are we talking about that one of our oxen hit this fella's ox? So, lay malay, you should say to him, I see the Yisrael Shkol. It's only 50-50. I don't know that you're Jewish. You want to get a payment? Prove it. What does he mean? If you want to extract payment from me, you can't come to me with a doubt. You have to tell me that I owe it. So to owe it means you have to prove that you're Jewish. So it's the opposite. His ox scored another Jewish person's ox. The fellow with the doubt, his ox scored a Jewish person's ox. So Palga Mishalim, so he for sure has to pay. Sorry. He for sure has to pay 50%. Why? Shartam. Let's say it's another Jew. He has to pay 50%.
Yes, this is a case where the Gentile chose to come to the Jew to the face.
Oh, yeah. So 1 sec, what happened over here? Turidi Dale, Turidi done. His ox scored one of our oxes. So he has to pay 50%. And Amar Lahu, he says to them, the other 50, Amar Lahu, I see right, Lav Yisrael. If you want to extract from me the other 50% by claiming that I'm not Jewish, so prove it. Prove it that I'm not Jewish, and you'll get the other 50%. You also need the proof. That's what it means, that he's considered a Yisrael. In this case, he's considered a Yisrael, that you can't extract the money until someone else is going to come along. The victim is going to come along and say, I can prove that you're not Jewish. So this is
discussed about being enough for Yisrael regarding marriage. Isn't that the most applicable?
Yeah, because we said before that regarding marriage, none of this is relevant because you need trey ruby. You need two types of majority of the people. So this is only been a other thing. Okay, we start a new parak, but it would be very difficult to study this parak without the parak before. It's, if we'd reorganize it, maybe we would put the new parak somewhere further on. And this is still part of the old one. We're still going to be discussing Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Gamliel versus Rabbi Yeshua. We still have all of those Mishnayos that we were learning. Okay, it starts like this: the Isha Shenesar Malay Sheneskarsha. If a woman was widowed or divorced, okay, now it's time to collect her ksuba, right? So she doesn't have a ksuba, or maybe it's lost. We'll see what exactly. Whatever the case is, we don't have proof of what her status was at the beginning of the marriage. So he Meris, of course, Pesula Nesasani, that I was married as a virgin, and my ksuba is worth 200 coins. And he says, he says, no, I married you as a widow. Now, obviously, this marriage right now ended in divorce, not in his death, or else this conversation wouldn't be taking place. But it started off with the Isha Shenesar Malay Sheneskarsha. So if she was widowed, then this conversation would be taking place with the orphans, with the people that own the estate, and they're putting that claim in.
How do we know she's not divorced? That she is widowed.
Well, she's either widowed or divorced. That we know right now.
Oh.
The divorce just took place, or the death just happened. And now she's saying, okay, so now let me collect the ksuba. So the question is, well, what happened several years ago at the beginning of the marriage? What was going on then? And she doesn't have a document to show us that it's a basula, ksuba, or this, that. We don't have that. So what can we do? So if there's witnesses that she had a hinuma, it's a little bit unclear what it is, but maybe it's this type of scarf or hat that a basula would wear, maybe a veil. And Vresha Prua. Do we do for a second marriage? Does the kala wear a veil? A first marriage, the kala wears a veil, right? For a second marriage, does the kala wear a veil? I'm not sure, but let's say hinuma would be that. I don't know what the hinuma is, but anyway, a basula has the hinuma and the non-basula doesn't. So if you have witnesses that can say, "Oh, that was a basula wedding," v'reishe perua, and there's witnesses, or there's witnesses that at her wedding her hair was untied; it was hanging down to her shoulders. Rashi says. So then, Kesubos Masayim, they only have to cover the hair after they're married. So obviously, she had her hair exposed.
You can leave your hair. I mean, I think there's some rabbis give a heter that will cover the hair after divorce.
Right. You got to you have to go to, you have to pick the rabbi, which rabbi gives that heter. To shop around. Okay. They should put that on the business card. So if that's the case, we have those witnesses, and Kesubos Masayim, then her Kesubah is 200. In the last parak, we would have said that this is a machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Gamliel versus Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Gamliel always believe her, and Rabbi Yeshua never believes her. Over here, we're not saying that. Why? Oh. Question is, let's say there weren't witnesses. What would happen? Right. Yeah. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Breka Imer Afchel Klei Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan ben Breka says also toasted grains. That's also a proof. I think this is where our custom is to throw candies at the chassan or something. I think they would throw toasted grains at a wedding, and that, but only for a basula wedding. So that would be they threw toasted grains, old-fashioned candies. So that's a proof that she's basula. Rabbi Yeshua will admit. If someone tells his friend, tells his friend, this field that I have, it actually belonged to your father, but I bought it from him. Now, this fellow, the one that doesn't have the field, didn't know that it used to be his father's. But right away when he hears that, it's like, he used to be my father's? Oh, so I don't believe you that you bought it from him. That's his claim that he's going to tell him. Used to be now that you told me that, you admitted, I'm only going to accept half of his. So we say that that's not how it works. We say, Hapesha shapesas sha'asaru hapesha hitter. Who told you that it was his father's? The fellow that just said that he bought it from him. So you can't accept half his statement, right? Let's say we don't know that it's his father's because this person came along and admitted that it was his father's, but he bought it from him. We have other sources that tell us that it was his father's. So then, in the end, this fellow comes along and says, I bought it. Prove it. Show me the document. He doesn't have a peshasar or a pesheter. Peshasar means the one that prohibited, he's also the one that permits. The one that said something condemning is the one that's also going to say why that's not an issue. Yeah, what we just did here is we just introduced that although Rabbi Yeshua in earlier cases does not hold that she's believed with a migu, remember migu? Migu meant that if she would have lied, she would have said something better. Although Rabbi Yeshua doesn't trust that, but over here, when it's not if he would have lied, he would have said something better. If he was a liar, he wouldn't have said anything. It's a pesha asar. So there's the Achrayim and everyone discusses if it's the same as amigo or if it's different, and even how does amigo work is a big discussion. Okay. Yeah.
If he's honest, he speaks up. If he's quiet, he's the liar.
But here, if he's honest, yeah,
He says, I
he's
bought
on.
my father.
He's honest by saying that it used to belong to your father, and then he adds in. He says, "But I bought it." So he didn't have to say any of that. No one was ever asking the question. No one knew that it belonged to his father. The fact that he gave that on his own initiative, it tells us that we should be believing whatever he says because he didn't have to. Okay. Yeah, in yeshiva, you'll either spend 1 year discussing Migo or 4 years discussing Migo. It's a very big topic, how a Migo works. Yeah.
The liar. So the bigger liar in this case is the one who's silent.
Right.
In the other case, it's the one who
Right.
speaks.
Well, the complications come in because there's a lot of different reasons why a person wouldn't like to say a claim. So they say, well, I could have said something better. But when you would have said that better, like how better really is that? Maybe you didn't want to say it because of this, or maybe that was too audacious to say, it was ha'aza just to claim that you didn't.
Yesterday, the Gemara about the mamzer.
Yeah, we did have it. Yeah, by Stuk Mamzer, right? If he was quiet, right? Why is he quiet? Yeah. Okay. The Gemara now goes back. We're going to discuss first the original issue over here. Is that there's a disagreement between the husband and the ex-husband and ex-wife. What the original marriage was,
Right.
if she was a virgin or not. So we said that if there's Eidim, that the wedding was done the way it would, according to the custom of how it would be for a virgin, then she gets the ksuba of Masayim of 200. Taima de Eidim. Why does she get it? That's because there were witnesses that said that she wore the certain type of head covering. Wouldn't be a full head covering because she wouldn't have a head covering. It was some sort of hat or maybe a veil or whatever the hinuma means. Halek Eidim. But if you don't have those witnesses, what happens? Then Baal Mehemen, then the husband's believed. What does he want to say? He's only giving her a ksuba of 100. That sounds like it doesn't follow the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel always believed her. Rabbi Gamliel always believed her. And here we're saying that the whole reason why we're believing her is because of the witnesses. Without the witnesses, we won't believe her. That doesn't follow Rabbi Gamliel. The Gemara says, I feel Tamer Rabbi Gamliel. It's not so. It could be that our Mishnah is also Rabbi Gamliel. But Rabbi Gamliel will admit over here. Why over there does Rabbi Gamliel say that we believe her? Because Rabbi Gamliel follows the rule that if she has an absolute claim, Bari, she knows 100%. She says that, let's say, I was raped, but it was after the betrothal. And he says, no, it wasn't. It was before the betrothal. Now, he doesn't have a clue. He's just saying, maybe it was before the betrothal, and I don't believe you.
Mhm.
But that's called Shema. It's maybe. He doesn't really know.
He could just say, well, prove it.
Right, that's basically Shema. Shema means prove it. So in that case, we say, Bari v'Shema, Bari Adif. Aval hacha b'Bari v'Bari layamar. But over here, he's saying, I remember our wedding. I remember it was just a few years ago. You weren't a basula. I remember the document. It was maybe if they wrote a document, or I remember how it was. So he's definite, just as she is definite. So we don't say Bari v'Shema. We don't say Bari which one? Yeah, I mean, who has the stronger claim? They each have the same strength. So Rabbi Gamliel would agree to this. We had a discussion if we were going to say that over here. If the ksuba was a derais or not. I forget what. Whatever the case is, Bari v'Shema was stronger than that, according to Rabbi Gamliel. But over here, it's about it probably has to do with that also. The fact that it's bari and bari, so then we'll fall back to the rule of hamitz mechaber levaraya. The Gemara says that is such an obvious distinction between the bari ubari and bari of Shema with the karila my karila. The one that mentioned this, what was he even thinking? Yeah, I don't know the exact translations of those words. Anyone have that the word thing? You remember that Gemara card? Right at the end of all the svarim there's that card. Let me see what they say over here. Shikayach,
That's where it was. Oh,
the Gemara card.
The trump card.
They don't have both, so it's going to be under kuf. The karila my karila. And as for the one who is involved with it, why has he really become involved with it? Ka'orela. Ude ka'orela. My ka'orela.
It says, and he who asked the question. Why did he ask it?
Ka'ore. Okay. What was he? Basically, it means what was he thinking originally? I don't know if that card helped me much. Habari barihu. This is so obvious that there's a distinction here. The Gemara says, well, there's another factor here that plays in that makes it a little more complex, which makes the question at least a good question. Given the Reiv Nashim Basulis Nisais, since majority of the women that get married are virgins, so Kibari V'Shema Dami would be considered a Bari V'Shema, even though he's claiming Bari, but her claim is stronger because she has a majority. He's saying she was a...
he's certain she's relying on the result.
No, they're both certain, but we're gonna throw into her claim a rive, so she's certain plus a rive. A rive and chazaka work very similar. Now it's a little bit unclear what they each do. Does rive does it tell us what the story was, or just does it tell us how to behave when that happens? Is it clear? Is it a birur? Is it clarifying what happened? Is it actually telling us what happened? It's just telling us how to be? That's a big discussion. But whatever the case is, it adds a strength to her claim, which makes his claim, it makes it imbalanced, which maybe Ram Gamliel would now say that we back to believing her. So at least that's a good question. And we say that Raiv doesn't help. It's still a bari and bari. Okay. If we're going to say it like this, that Rabbi Gamliel admits that here we're not going to say Bari V'Shema Bari Adif. So then it's logical. Why? Because if you read further in the Mishnah, it says Midik Tanya Maida Rabbi Yeshua. If you go further, Rabbi Yeshua comes along and says that he admits to something. Well, if the first part of the Mishnah is Rabbi Gamliel admitting that over here you don't trust the woman, comes along the second part of the Mishnah and says, well, Rabbi Yeshua also admits to something. It's great. The Mishnah matches perfectly. But if you say the Mishnah is not Rabbi Gamliel, and he's not, this is not Rabbi Gamliel saying anything, Rabbi Yeshua Laman Maida, so how did the Mishnah just throw in Rabbi Yeshua admits? Like, where'd that come from? If the Mishnah is set up that it's starting off with Rabbi Gamliel saying that even though usually I don't hold like this, but now I do hold like this, then afterwards when Rabbi Yeshua admits to something, it fits perfectly. The Gemara says that it's not necessarily a proof because misavis Rabbi Yeshua hai pirkin koi amigo koi va pirkin kamakai. Rabbi Yeshua is talking about something that he said earlier. It doesn't have to be talking about right this immediate case that Rabbi Gamliel is just talking about. Maybe it's not even Rabbi Gamliel. The Gemara says hey. So if that's the case, then what is he referring to? We're looking back at the Mishnayos that we had from Daf Beis, whatever, Daf Gimel. If we're going back to this case that we said, let's say she's pregnant. And they say to her, excuse me, what's the nature of this fetus? So she responds, Mish plaintive v'kayinu. The father is so-and-so, and he's a Kohen. Ram Gamliel, Rab Shimon, Aimer, Namenes. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar, Aimer, Namenes. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar say that she's believed. Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Shua says we don't believe her. So, we're looking for Rabbi Yeshua saying that although there's a migu over there, I don't follow the migu, but over here there's a migu that I do follow. So the Gemara says, "Hasam my migu ikka." There was no migu there. When she's pregnant, she has no other way of getting out of that. There's only one claim, that the guy was a good guy, was a good lineage. She can't say. There's nothing to say. There's no excuse. There's no.
Yeah, you're not
So,
going to
yeah.
say the opposite about this guy. You're not
Well,
gonna say,
there's
like,
no
is there
better.
any
A
advantage
better
to her?
claim would have been that I was just talking to him. I didn't do anything. Or the reason why I'm not a virgin is because I was hit by a piece of wood. But those claims she can't say when she's pregnant. So she has no better claim. This is the claim that she's got, and
Do
this
we
is on.
assume her answer is going to be the answer that would most benefit her case?
Yeah.
That's how it generally goes.
Yeah, yeah. So if she had a claim that would benefit her more, and she didn't say that one, then we would say that we trust her here, that she has a migu. But she doesn't have any claim that would benefit her more.
So she could be lying.
So she could be lying. So Rabbi Shua says that we don't trust her, but there was no migu there either. So Rabbi Shua wouldn't say, but I agree that this migu I tried, but because there was no migu before that Rabbi Shua rejected. Okay, so we're looking for another case. Next case. We see you're talking with someone. Okay. Now we see that there could be some excuses coming in. They say, who is this fellow that you're talking to? She says, Ish plain of a has good lineage. Now, that means that she just admitted to something. Admitted that they live together. She could have said,
No, it's
I
implied.
was just talking. So there's a migu there. We should trust her that he's a Kohen. From Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shomer, let me piano chayin. Rabbi Shua says, you don't trust her. And now comes along Rabbi Shua and says, but I'll tell you which migu we do trust. And that's this other type of migu. It's called pesha asa. The Gemara says, Hasam my migu eka over there. Do you have a migu? If we follow the opinion of Ziri that says that translate the words talking, she was talking with. So what's the case? She was secluded with him. Now we still don't know what they did. So migu di ba yamar le nevalti. She could have said that we didn't have relations. So v'kamer nevalti mehemna. But then she admits to that. So she could have had a better claim. So we believe her for the worst claim. She said a claim that's not to her best interest. We believe that she said the truth. But according to Ravasi, that says that when it says midaberes, that we saw her talking, we didn't really mean talking. We meant it was a euphemistic way of we saw them having relations. If that's the case, then what better claim can she have than saying that he was a good guy? He was a good lineage. We saw everything else we saw. She has no better claim. So there's no migu there. So according to Ravasi, we're going to need another case to explain this Mishnah. She claims that the reason why she's not a virgin is because she was hit by a piece of wood. And he says, no, it was because that she lived with a man. He doesn't believe her. So Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar say that we do believe her against his claim. She says that it was a piece of wood, and we believe her. Rabbi Shua says, no, we don't live by her mouth. We don't trust her. Hasa, my migu, what migu does she have over there? We had a machlekes.
Rabbi Yoshua, though, like with these cases.
We don't follow Rabbi Shua in the end. We follow Rabbi Gamliel, that we believe. But what was the actual argument there? We had a machlekes amiraim, Talmudic sages. What was the argument between the Tanoim? What was the argument, which ultimately means between the husband and wife? What did the wife want? What was she claiming, and what was the husband claiming? So Rabbi Eliezer's view was that she was saying that I deserve at least 100 for the ksuba because I was hit by a piece of wood. And he's saying, you don't deserve anything. Well, if that's the case, she could have said a much better claim. She could have said that I was hit by a piece of wood, but not before the betrothal, after the betrothal, which means that you really owe me 200 because this accident happened after I was already purchased. So if that's the case, then she now has a migu. Vika amra Vika amra miikara the less the elamana. What is Vika amra? But she admitted, Kamra, but she admitted that it was originally before the betrothal. Well, if that's the case, then her better claim would have been 200, that she's claiming 200. She only claimed 100. She has a migu. So we believe her. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, she's claiming 200. She says a mukaseitz always gets 200. And he's claiming that, no, I only want to give you 100 because he says that she was, she lived with someone. It wasn't a mukaseitz. It wasn't hit by wood. So my miguika, what claim can she have? That it would happen before, it happened after? It's anyways 200. So there's no better claim. There's no claim that's going to benefit her more. So there's no migu there. So we're looking for the migu that Rabbi Shua rejected in an earlier Mishnah that now he's admitting to. We don't have a migu in an earlier Mishnah, according to Rabbi Yochanan and according to Rabasi. We're going through a bunch of Mishnayos here. Each one has one opinion that doesn't fit. Elaha, it must be the following. Back to Daf Yomi Warriors. Someone married a woman, and he finds that she's not a virgin. She says, yeah, but that's because I was raped after the betrothal, and it's your loss. Your field got flooded. It's a metaphor for something that why did this happen to her now? It's because it never happened before. It's all because of him. It's his bad luck. It's all of a sudden we have this betrothal, the slachayim or whatever it is, and then everything starts to go bad. It's all because of you. That's one way of explaining it. There's other ways of explaining it, but and he says like no, it happened before. I don't trust you. And Rabbi Gamliel v'Rabbi Elazar she didn't have to say that she was raped. She could have said that it was a mukaseitz, that she was hit by wood. Now, if that's the case, what would the difference be? If she's hit by wood or if she was raped, the difference is, can she marry a Kohen? So the like apostle nafsha mikahuna. I know there's some monetary issues also, but that's getting into a machlaikas. But everyone would agree that this halacha would be relevant. That if she was hit by wood, she can still marry a Kohen. But she says, no, she was raped. No, she can't marry the Kohen. Especially it's after the betrothal, right? She becomes puzzled to her husband if he's a Kohen, and she becomes puzzled to every other Kohen, right? Mishum Hachi Kamar Ram Gamliel de Mehemna. That's where Ram Gamliel says she's believed because she had a claim that would have benefited her much more. She could have said that it was why she's not a virgin because it was hit by a piece of wood. Come.
She knows all these laws. Right? Like she was ignorant of these.
Yeah.
She wouldn't know that she.
Right. But the problem that once we start to, you have to make those basic assumptions, but you also have to make the assumption that she's not setting up her claim with the best migu possible. Yeah. If she's setting it up with the migu, then we lose the migu. Right? She knows that she's going to say this. She's going to be believed because she could have had a better claim. Yeah, you mentioned it's like a Maida b'miktzas. Yeah, the Achrayim over here discussing. I mean, that's like the big sugi here. Is does the husband have to make a shvur deraisa because she's claiming 200 and he's saying I admit to 100? That's a regular case of Maida b'miktzas. but it's not mentioned at all in this whole sugya. So where did the shvua go? That's like everyone, the Rishonim, Machlekes Rishonim. The Rambam says that he's making a shvua here, and
Because made all flavor, so you don't really have it over here.
well, maybe he doesn't have all the money, and he's just postponing. So he's saying.
You don't have this chutzpah about being in front of like money. What the money put out.
Right. Right.
What's the motive here? He's agreeing that they were married.
He's agreeing to 100.
That's just saying, I agree with the marriage.
Yeah, very good. That's the other Rishonim. Excellent. Other Rishonim say that there's no maida. It's like halach. Halach, the case starts over. The whole machlekes is only about 100. It's not about 2. Yeah. Inshallah, if I claim that you owe me $100 and you say I admit to 50, but the other 50 it's not I paid you back or whatever. So you would have to make a shvua, an oath, that you only owe 50. And that would be your shvua, that you only owe 50. That's a biblical law. The question is, does the husband over here have to make that shvua? Because she's claiming that he owes her 200 and he's admitting to 100. Other Rishonim, they learn this different. They say that she's claiming a ksuba of a basula, and he's admitting to a ksuba of almana. So it's tanuchitim v'hidalei b'seirim. I'm claiming wheat. He's admitting to barley. It's not even a maid of a mixas. It's a totally, but it all boils down to money. So it's a problematic answer because the background to where the money, Okay. Whatever the case is, she had a better claim. She had a migu, and Rabbi Yeshua doesn't accept it anyway. Rabbi Yeshua is now telling Rabbi Gamliel, behind migu the migu over here where it says about the field, where someone says, this field belonged to your father, but I purchased it. So this I believe. I'll admit to you. But the migu over there, that I don't agree to. The Gemara says, why? Here they have a better claim in each one. The claim over here is that he could have said that it was never his father's, never the other person's father's. And the claim over there is he could have said that she was hit by a piece of wood. It's both a migu. What's the difference? Well, over there, she has to defend herself. Over here, he didn't have to say anything. The term shar shachal lefanecha, there's an ox laying on the floor that's slaughtered. Someone's got to explain what just happened here, like how this happened. So she's coming along and she's explaining, and she took a certain claim to in defense. Over here, there's no ox on the floor. There's nothing here. He came along and admitted without anyone ever asking who this field belonged to 50 years ago. He said this field, by the way, the history of this field is that he didn't have to say that. So once he said that 49 years ago I bought it or whatever, I'm messing up with the Eiffel stuff, but whatever the case is, a long time ago I bought it. It's from your father. So he's believed with the migu, Pesha Asar it's called. The mouth that forbade is also the mouth that. Okay, that's the end of the case. We understand Rabbi Yeshua that there's different types of migu. Over there, she had to defend herself, and over here, the fella didn't have to say anything. Okay, now, if that's the fact that majority of women that get married are virgins, so why do we need witnesses? We have the majority. There's a problem over here. It's called the reyes. Reyes is the Talmudic term for a problem. We would have said that, there's supposed to be the majority of women that get married are virgins, and we don't know about this one. We'll say that she was part of the majority. The only thing is there's one more factor, and that is that when a woman gets married and she's a virgin, everyone knows about it. they have a different sort of wedding. It's probably they throw the thing, the candies or whatever. There's more. So what happened to everyone knowing about it? Why doesn't everyone know about it? So it sounds like
There was a case where it was virgin and no one else knew about it because it wasn't really obvious.
that makes it a problem. That makes it that maybe this case really isn't a virgin. So b'suli yesh lakol v'zu on the top of Tezayin Amid Beis, hayol ve'ein lakol Yisrael aruba. The fact that we don't have everyone discussing the wedding, that everyone. So
Could be a private wedding.
yeah, well,
Usually there's two others.
Right.
Witnesses.
here we have the witnesses. We have witnesses showing up. We're asking what. Let's say we didn't have the witnesses. We should still say it's the majority. We say no, we're not going to rely on that majority because there's a problem.
That is, yeah.
Because what happened to everyone knowing about it? It should be, everyone knows.
Yeah.
We don't know about it. So the Gemara says, "Ikal," and this is b'sulas yesh lakol. If that's a fact, that there's always knowledge about that wedding. So then the witnesses are testifying against something that we know is obviously not true. Now maybe we shouldn't believe those witnesses. The Gemara says, majority of weddings where she's a virgin have a what's the word for it? What do they use? Everyone knows about it. Public knowledge that she's a virgin. See what we just switched over here. Originally we said that every single wedding has a kol. So the reason why over here, why we're going to say that she's a virgin is only because the witnesses came. We said if every single wedding has a kol, so where's the kol? Kol means the public awareness that she was a virgin. The only way we know this is by these two witnesses that are testifying against what everyone else knows. Maybe we shouldn't believe the witnesses. Said no. Majority of them have.
Nowadays,
And now they're saying that this one was also a wedding, that she was a virgin. What happened to the kol? Okay, this is from the minority. Not every wedding is a big wedding.
So only the witnesses.
People are the same back then as they are now. That's all.
Right.
Everybody knows.
So only the witnesses know whether or not she's a basura.
In this case, it was these two witnesses that knew. But what happened to everyone else? I don't know.
I mean, today, both weddings look the same, whether or not she is
Right.
basura. Right? I mean, I don't know. I haven't been
Unless it's a second wedding. Second wedding, they always do quiet.
You're right.
But if she's a basula or not a basula, that they usually
first
don't
one.
announce. What do they do if the girl is not a basula and for the ksuba? I think what they do is they write basula anyway. Yeah, and the reason why is because he's allowed to obligate himself with an extra $100. So he's giving her a ksuba basula, which is fine. It's not $100. It's 5,000, 10,000, but it's whatever.
It's a better deal than you get.
Yeah. So he's allowed to obligate himself. Now, if it's an outright, obvious lie, then they won't do that. But if it's just something that maybe something that should be covered up, so they'll do that. What is that? Uncontested.
State just the monetary amount.
No, it says basilta da.
It says that she is.
She is this basilta.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. See, if it's sometimes she's not a basula because of the chassan. That happens, and then for sure it's no problem because then according to some opinions he's obligated anyway because of whatever they did before. So then for sure it's no problem. But let's say she's coming from wherever, yeah, right, yeah, in Yehuda, right. Okay, if you have witnesses that she went out with this veil or some sort of covering. You see, what happened over here is that there's no ksuba that she's producing. Where is the ksuba? That's the where is the actual document? In the document, it has the information that we need, and she's not showing it. So,
Well, that's the term. Ego.
yeah, so she has a migu of whatever. Maybe she has a migu. No, it's not a. She's claiming 200. That's her claim. There's no migu over here. There's. Maybe she's using the witnesses in this court. She says she doesn't have the ksuba. She's going to show up in another court and produce the document and then collect twice. Yeah. Amar Rabavo, Zaysimeres Kaisim Shaver. Rabavo says, well, we have a way of resolving this. You give him a receipt. Now, the problem with the receipt is that he has to watch the receipt now for the rest of his life because she may show up, do this trick. So we try to avoid making him have to hold on to receipt, but okay, whatever. That's Rabavo. Rav Papa Amar b'makim shein kaisvin ksuba skinan. Rav Papa says, no, we're dealing with this. This is an area where they don't have a ksuba. So she had the witnesses. She can't reproduce these witnesses to come again. She can't, I mean, they're not going to show up. That would be like a whole conspiracy. But if she had a ksuba, she may show up. But we're talking about the area where they don't write a ksuba. There, those that taught the same discussion, but it was on a brisa, not on the Mishnah. It says if the brisa says if the ksuba, so she lost the ksuba, hitmina, she hid it. Hitmina ksuba, nisrfa ksuba got burnt. But raktu lefanei, sachku lefanei, avir lefanei, kaishel basura, imapashel basulam. But we have these witnesses that they had this special dance, or they had these special. So this laughter or something. Kaishel basura was a type of cup that they would pass before if she was a basula. So we know that she's a basula. If we have witnesses about this, then she'll get a ksuba of 200. The Gemara asks, and she'll produce these witnesses in one court. She'll collect the ksuba, and then she'll collect. With the ksuba, she'll produce the ksuba in another court and she'll collect again. And now we have the statement that we had before. Rabavo says, well, don't worry about that. We write a receipt for him, so that's not going to happen. Rav Papa says, we're talking about where there is no ksuba, because in this area, they did not write documents for that. It was just, everyone knew she got married, she can just claim whatever the claim is. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? But if the ksubasa katani, it says she lost the ksuba. Of course they write the ksuba. She lost it.
Wait, didn't we say earlier that the Basin keeps the get for their records?
Yeah,
or something?
but the ksuba is a monetary document that each person keeps.
So, I mean, they could prove it. They could say, no, we did or did not give this get. Can we say that?
No, well, the get would be on, she gets
ksuba,
it. Here we're talking about the ksuba. This is a monetary document for the marriage.
I see, I got it.
The cost of la ihu, okay. The Gemara says, but we said that they lost the ksuba. So you're right. Over here, normally there is no ksuba. Most people don't have a ksuba here, but he happened to write her a ksuba. Saif, mafkala v'gaviba. So now back to the problem. She's going to produce it. The Gemara says, my ifta, what does it mean? She lost it? Ifta ba'ar. She lost it in a fire. Oh. But if that's the case, then we said another case where it got burnt by fire. So what do you mean she lost it in fire? Then it's repeating the same case twice. Right? It's Mina, it says she concealed it. But so if the lamali, what does it have to say the case that she lost it? Gemara says, if she lost it, if she lost it, we believe that she actually concealed it and we will not give her the money until we have witnesses that say that it was really lost by being burnt. Okay. The Gemara says, the one that gives Rav Papa's claim that we don't write a ksuba on the brisa, he learned this discussion between Rabavo and Rav Papa. Do we have a receipt, or is it talking about a case where there was no ksuba written at all? So if you said it on the brisa, then koskena masnisim. Now the brisa was a little bit more difficult because we did over there have a ksuba. We just got lost. And then for Rav Papa to then say that it's not really, usually they don't write it. So for sure on the Mishnah, we could say that they don't always write a ksuba. But Manda Mastila Masnisin, the one that says on the Mishnah, they don't always write a ksuba. But on the Brisa, apparently they do write a ksuba. What is this? Kikushian, because of the question that we asked, that it says that they lost the ksuba. Okay. Im yeshedim chulu. Let's just go do one more small piece. Let's say she's going to get another set of witnesses, let's say, in a different bezdin, and she'll go collect again. The Gemara says, even according to the opinion that holds that we don't want the husband to have to watch a receipt, but in the cases where it's impossible for him to protect himself, then we will require him to hold on to receipt because there's no ksuba. Okay, let's leave it over here. And on Sunday, it's Hashem, 6 o'clock.
So there's nothing wrong with getting a marriage receipt. It's just not always effective.
Ksuba receipt.
Kesubos, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just we don't want him to have to hold on to that for